In today's episode, during listener Q&A, we'll offer advice on choosing between two critical tasks, leveling a kitchen floor or shimming the cabinets.
And later, you'll meet fellow podcaster and blogger Tux Loerzel. A few years ago, Tux left his Brooklyn apartment behind to join Detroit's modern renaissance and restore a brick duplex that had seen better days.
But first, I'm Stacy Grinsfelder.
And I'm Daniel Cantor.
And you're listening to True Tales from Old Houses. Hi, Daniel.
Hi. How's it going?
Oh, very good. What's happening in your world?
Oh, not tons. I've been in a closet in my dining room for like 4 days. So it's nice to see you. It's nice to see another person.
Not just the back wall of your closet.
I'm in a room with natural light.
Well, I want to hear more, but before we launch into today's episode, I do want to say thank you to our season 11 sponsors, the window course by Scott Seidler of the Craftsman blog, Sutherland Wells, Abitron, and Noonan Heritage Craftworks.
Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it. We are very grateful to our sponsors.
So a closet. You're in a closet.
Yeah. Okay, so my dining room has this closet that's definitely like for linens and dishes and stuff. It's like less than 1.5 feet deep. And I honestly do not remember when I gutted it. It might have been when I took the ceilings out in the dining room, which was over 10 years ago now, I believe. So that closet, it's not as though I haven't shoved things in there, but like, how much do you do in a closet that's just studs?
Right.
So now I've been killing it, Stacy. I took out any remaining like lath on anything. I roughed in electric. So I put 4 outlets in this one closet because I'm like, everything is increasingly cordless and needs to be charged. So
smart.
Why not just have outlets everywhere? I put in a light. I added nailers. Then I got this pile of beadboard that came out of a cabin up at Silver Lake. One of Brad's neighbors was like, "Do you want all this?" And he's like, "Absolutely not." And I'm like,
"Absolutely, yes."
I've had all this really crusty old beadboard, which I sort of immediately regretted starting to use because it was like, oh my God, this prep is absurd. And this is a closet, but it looks great.
Are you going to paint it?
Yes, already done.
Oh, what color?
None of the closets in my house got the same hardwood flooring that the rest of the house got, probably in like the 30s. So it has the original pine subfloor, which is, the gaps are really wide. It's kind of a pain. So I also dug out of my garage a roughly 100-year-old Congolium rug, which is basically a linoleum rug that wouldn't go quite to the edge of a room. Anyway, cut a good section out of that. And it's super wild. It's like a great pattern, but it's just this little sort of section. So I think it's really pretty. And then I happen to have a 10-year-old gallon of gray paint that kind of matches the floor. And it's the same paint that I painted the inside of my hutch with. So I already know that I like the way it looks with like my Yellowware bowls and all my stuff. So I just went with that.
Yeah, that's great.
So that's what I've been up to. And how about yourself? Are we sleeping porching?
Well, I want to tell you about all of that, but I have some announcements. Can I do those first?
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Well, in all fairness, I asked you what you were up to. I led you into that conversation, which I enjoyed very much.
And like, let me tell you everything.
But as far as announcements go, I do need to say that we are getting really close to the end of season 11. Shockingly, I can't believe it. But after today's episode, there are just 3 more. And I think it's gone by in a blink. How about you?
Yes, it seems very fast. I don't want to break.
I don't really want to break either, but I think we should take a short one because we'll be well rested and ready for more. But the schedule has been a little different this year because we recorded all summer instead of taking our hiatus in the summer. But so that said, even though we're going on break, we are planning 2 bonus ghost story episodes in October. And so we are counting on all of you listening out there to make that happen. Every October, just as a reminder, we do tell light-hearted ghost stories, and we would love to hear yours. So if you have a story to share, please let us know. You can let us know on the website, truetalesfromoldhouses.com, or you can just send us a direct message on social media, and we'll arrange a recording time. So would love to hear from you on those ghost story episodes.
Yes, truly never enough ghost story submissions. along with things that we can never get enough of, ratings and reviews. So we just want to say a quick thank you for all of the wonderful ratings and reviews that have come in recently. It is exciting and kind and helps boost us in the rankings and get more listeners. So if you have not left a rating or review, you can absolutely still do that, and we would appreciate it. You can go on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, literally wherever you enjoy your favorite shows. They're super helpful, and we would really appreciate it.
And if you're not into leaving ratings and reviews, if you could just share the show on social media, we would love that. So just take a quick little screenshot, send it to your followers. If you want to drop a link to the specific show, we're not going to stop you. But however you want to share it, we would appreciate that.
And finally, we are still taking questions for listener Q&A. It's one of our favorite parts of doing this show. So please feel free to submit those through the contact form or via voicemail at truetalesfromoldhouses.com.
Before announcements, you asked me what I was up to, Daniel, and I actually find myself at a crossroads. I've just wrapped up the residual work at Silver Lake, got all of that off my plate.
Congratulations. That was a big lift.
Yeah, but it feels great. Wrapped it up much quicker than I did last year, so it feels nice to just check that off my to-do list. The sleeping porch has not really started. Tomorrow, I meet with a contractor for the final meeting where we hash out all the details. I love this company that I'm working with because they treat it like a big project, so everybody's on the same page. But we all know that for them, it's a small project. But I love how they have such attention to detail, and they know that I need information, right? They really want to facilitate that communication so that there are no surprises. So that's pretty fun.
That's so nice in a landscape that's not usually that nice.
Right? Exactly. So I guess I'll write them a small deposit check. They don't even require a large deposit because they don't have a ton of supplies to buy or anything. They just want to kind of hold the spot. And then, like I said, hopefully September, October. Realistically, I'm thinking October. I think they'd probably love to do it in September, but you know how things go in construction world. Things get pushed back. Projects have to be shuffled. So I have no expectations. Even November would be fine with me, quite frankly, just as long as it's before winter.
Just don't tell them that.
Oh, no.
Tell them it has to be September.
Right.
Full stop. End of story. September.
Yeah. So yes, I'm definitely at a crossroads. Nothing much to share today. My apprentice is still working for me. She goes back to her job in, 3 or 4 weeks, I guess. And so she still has a few more weeks to work with me. And we've been working on a lot of doors, putting doors back up. And of course, doors, they never work right the first time. They're such a nightmare. So we put them all up, and then there's shims behind the hinges, and then there's routing out or chiseling out a little bit where the old hinges were. It's just an ongoing thing. I think she was shocked that it took us, 8 hours to hang 4 doors. She was like, what? Like, sorry, this is just how long it takes.
Yeah.
But she continues to be wonderful to work with. So excited and enthusiastic. And I just love her. I'm going to miss her when she goes back to work.
That's so great. Do you think she'll continue in some capacity, like every so often, or we'll never see her again?
Yeah, she said she would. So we'll keep talking about it. But anyway, I'll go into more detail about that on next week's minisode.
Updates on updates on updates.
That is the place to hear them all. But for now, we need to take a short break.
Okay, let's do it.
Listener Q&A is up next. True Tales from Old Houses is supported by The Window Course. The Window Course is created by our friend Scott Seidler of the Craftsman blog, and it is a step-by-step do-it-yourself program that will teach you everything you need to know to successfully restore your wood windows. It's self-paced, so you can go as fast or as slow as you need, and there are also several price points to fit your needs and budget.
If it's warm out in the old house community, it's window time. It is the perfect time to get ready to restore the windows at your house, and the Window Course has all the information that you need all in one place. And Scott is even offering his students a special deal. So if you sign up for the lifetime access package or the training package, you'll also get a free infrared paint remover, which is a $100 value.
The Window Course comes with a money-back guarantee, and lucky for us, Scott is offering True Tales from Old Houses listeners a special discount. For 10% off, visit thewindowcourse.com and use the coupon code TrueTales. True Tales from Old Houses is also supported by Sutherland Wells. All of Sutherland Wells products are handcrafted in Providence, Rhode Island, with the highest quality, sustainably grown tung oil. Tung oil, native to China, has been used for centuries as a durable finish for wood, metal, and stone.
Now, you could be basic and grab yourself a can of polyurethane, but we want better for you. And tung oil finish is that it penetrates the surface of the wood, so it flexes and contracts as the conditions change. That makes it the perfect pre-finish or protectant for everything from fine furniture to window sash and sills.
I've been lucky enough to try many of their products, Millie's, Murdoch's, Clarabelle's, Slicky Wicky, now their furniture polish. I love seeing everyone's projects on Instagram, knowing that the word about Sutherland Wells is spreading. Now, whatever those projects might be, siding, hardwood floors, furniture restoration, cutting boards, there is a tung oil product from Sutherland Wells that's just right for you.
So to learn more about the complete product line, visit Sutherland Wells. That's WELLES, sutherlandwells.com. And to save 10% on your first order, use that coupon code TRUETALES.
Before we answer today's listener question, Daniel, I actually have a follow-up to a question that you and I answered on episode 134.
Are they mad?
No,
okay.
Not mad at all. So, do you remember Marika?
Yeah, she was the one with the big duplex that needed painting, right? In
Yes.
Portland or Seattle or something.
I'm pretty sure it was Portland. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was Portland.
In a nutshell, they were trying to figure out different ways to extend the life of the exterior paint because at that time they'd received quotes of, I think, $67,000 all the way up to $78,000. And they did not have that kind of cash at the moment. So they needed time to save for that big expense. Is it ring a bell now? It's all coming back to you?
It definitely read it once you said the 78,000. I was like, oh, right. Yeah, that was rough.
Do you remember what our advice was, just generally speaking?
So I think we both said we don't really recommend trying to do this by yourself with very tall ladders. You could tackle lower parts of the wall. You could get a boom lift.
Yeah, that was just ballpark. I guess the overall picture was that we felt like maybe it wasn't the best idea. And it wasn't necessarily that you and I didn't think it was a good idea to DIY. It's just that safety reasons, what they were describing. Also just the time it takes. I remember we were both talking about how long that would take.
And they described a very big house, like a tall house too.
Yeah, they were talking about 30-foot ladders and such, which was frightening to me. But yeah, so Marika sent us a follow-up this week and I wanted to share it with you.
Okay.
She said, based on what you said, we did not try and DIY painting our house. We got a couple more quotes and found a company that was able to squeeze us in. We went back and forth on colors, but we landed on a nice soft green with a creamy white trim, and we're all very happy with how it turned out. So good news so far. Want to hear the best news?
Yes.
She continues. All in all, it was about $23,000, which was manageable with some savings, a gift from my parents, and a personal loan from their credit union. We've been getting a lot of compliments from the neighbors. I thought that was a really fun follow-up, and I appreciated hearing from Marika.
Congratulations, Marika. What an amazing, it's literally a, $55,000 difference between top and bottom bid. It just goes to show, keep pricing stuff.
Right. And it makes me think that other company, the other two companies really didn't want to do it maybe. When you see that much of a difference.
That is a huge difference.
It's a huge difference, yeah. So anyway, great. All's well that ends well in Marika's world and her duplex. We usually don't get follow-ups. So thanks, Marika.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations.
So moving on to today's question, it's about something completely different. And the question comes from Ellen. And she asks, this is about, I guess, kitchen remodel. She says, during a kitchen remodel, should we level the floors or shim the cabinets? I think my gut instinct is, why not both? But why don't you start?
I think this question is hugely dependent on sort of how much work you're already doing and what's already there. So to level an existing floor without taking out the floor, I'm not really even sure how you would do that. Is generally not done. So if you're trying to preserve your original wood floor, you're not really going to be able to do that with leveling the floors. I think any kitchen, new construction, old, whatever, there is going to be some shimming of cabinets. Walls are never exactly square. Things are never exactly plumb. Floors are never exactly level. So you're always going to have a little bit of that, I guess. So I think for me, it would just come down to like how irritating the out of levelness is. You know, if you feel like you're at a fun house, sure, pull up all your floors, sister and your joists. Like it's a big job. But if it's tolerable, like embrace it. I don't know.
Yeah, same. No, I tend to agree with you. I mean, I guess you could try to level them from underneath, but I think unless there's a huge structural issue with the whole house, it's a lot of times just normal settling. And yeah, I mean, I'm kind of team shim cabinets unless the unlevelness is a structural issue related to the whole house. Because if you ever fix that, then of course everything's going to be out of whack. But yeah, I'm with you, I think. And shims are your friends. I keep them on hand all the time.
Yes, always have like 7 packs of shims unopened and then like 4 packs that you've cut half of them off. The other thing about leveling floors is depending on how you're doing it and depending on how the job is being done. In other words, is it permitted? Are you getting inspections? If you choose to undertake the task of leveling floors, it might be more than you are expecting. Like, depending on how your building department is, they might come in and say, these joists are undersized. And you'll say, well, they've been there for 100 years. I just want to sister them in. And they'll say, no, you have to rebuild the whole floor. I mean, I'm not saying that necessarily happens, but it opens a potential for things to spiral outside of what you can control. So be careful. And then with shimming, I think you just split the difference. Your standard countertop is 36 inches off the floor. If you have a 4-inch difference between one end of the room and the other, you just split that difference. So,
yeah, my kitchen is mostly level, but it reminds me of if you look at the fridge and you spend too much time looking at it, you'll see exactly how unlevel it is the fridge is level, but how it fits in the little opening for the cabinets. But yeah, we just do our best. And most of the time, homeowners, we're the only people who are going to look that closely and see if just how out of level it is. So yeah, to sum up, I think we're both sort of team shim the cabinets, but certainly look at the floors and make sure there's not a structural issue underneath.
Yeah, I think it's just do what's practical. If you have all your joists exposed and stuff, you might as well, but don't rip up layers and layers and layers just to get there if it's not that important.
So thank you so much for that question, Ellen. And remember, if anyone else has questions for us to answer this season, we're still taking them. So head on over to truetalesfromoldhouses.com to submit that question through the contact form or by voicemail.
And speaking of voicemail, whenever you have thoughts, comments, anything about any episode, or just anything at all, please feel free to leave your feedback using that mic icon on the website. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay, it's time for another quick break because our conversation with Tux Loerzel is up next.
True Tales from Old Houses is supported by Abitron. Now, Stacy, you have a big old wood house. I have a big old wood house. We love our big old wood house, but we know that eventually things like windows, doors, columns, balusters, and any other wooden features will ultimately break down if exposed to the elements for long enough.
That is true, but Abitron products can help. For years, I have turned to Abitron's liquid wood and wood epox to make durable, cost-effective repairs on my own wooden doors and windows, especially windows. The system consists of 2 products, an epoxy wood hardener.
That's the liquid wood.
And a lightweight epoxy wood filler.
That's the wood epox.
And with those 2 products, liquid wood and wood epox, you can effectively harden soft wood. You can patch pieces that are missing, reconstruct little ornamental details, or all of the above.
Now, learn from my mistakes. I spent many years using wood fillers that were not Abitron, and I experienced how quickly those repairs failed over time and need to be redone now. I truly adore my Abitron because there's no shrinking, there's no cracking. It sands and paints just like wood, and the repairs are super long lasting. I'm pretty sure they'll last longer than the rest of the house.
And available exclusively to True Tales from Old Houses listeners, Abitron is offering a 10% discount if you use the coupon code TRUE2024. So enter TRUE2024 at Abitron.com and save those existing wood features instead of replacing them.
True Tales from Old Houses is also supported by Noonan Heritage Craftworks.
You may know Joseph Parenti from Instagram for his work with historic exteriors in the Pittsburgh area. He's now extending his offerings to homeowners across the United States with Noonan Heritage Craftworks.
Old houses are overwhelming, and finding just the right help to restore and maintain your old house can be a huge challenge. Like, where do you start? What materials and methods should you use? Who can you really trust? Joseph is here to help you.
You can schedule a phone call, a video conference, or email consultation with Joseph to talk through your exterior project and to help you game plan. Whether you need to prepare maybe a scope of work or a second set of eyes to help compare estimates or even figure out the right questions to ask vendors, Joseph can provide unbiased guidance to help you steer clear of pitfalls and ensure success.
To learn how Noonan Heritage Craftworks can work with you, visit our special landing page at Noonan Craftworks. That's Noonan, noonancraftworks.com/true tales.
Our guest today is Tux Loerzel, history lover, fearless old house rehabber, and owner of one of the smoothest radio voices you'll ever hear on this podcast.
Hi, my name is Tux Loerzel. I am an old homeowner, and I run the Detroit Duplex Instagram account.
Welcome, Tux.
Thank you.
Hello and welcome.
Yeah, so Loerzel, is that how you say it?
Yeah, it's a German name. It's everyone pronounces it differently. My family, I grew up saying Loerzel because they changed the spelling at Ellis Island when my grandpa came, but I try to sort of pronounce it more like my grandpa does, but it's not. It should be, I think, Loerzel.
Oh, okay.
Because in German, Z is like a T sound.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, but
okay,
I just
so
say
say
Loerzel.
it again one more time. Say it one more time. Loerzel. All right.
Yeah.
I realized when I was looking at your last name, I thought, I have no idea how to say that. And usually I have at least I can ballpark it, but I just wasn't sure about that one. Yeah. So welcome, Tux. Love your Detroit duplex. I was looking at Bo and Kyle's book, Throwbacks Home Interiors. And when I opened it up, there was your living room. Is that correct?
Yeah, they shot my living room and dining room. It was wild too, because we'd only been in the house for 6 months. So those 2 rooms were the first rooms that we finished. And it was this mad dash to get it to look like someone actually lived here. And it wasn't just an empty space. So when I look at it now, I'm like, oh, this is not, I would like it to look, but we did a good job.
That would be true if they took those photos today and you were looking at it next year. I mean,
absolutely.
That will always be true, but that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
It is a gorgeous room, and I knew it instantly because it is very, very colorful, which I have to say, I don't see a lot of colorful rooms. I see moody rooms. I see bright and white. I do not see a lot of colorful rooms in the old house realm. So good on you. I'm impressed.
Thank you. My apartment in Brooklyn was very grayish and pale and neutral. So when I bought this house, I was like, I'm just going to go for it. We're going super colorful.
Go wild.
Yeah.
So you moved pretty recently. This is 2 years ago from Brooklyn to Detroit. Is Detroit your hometown?
No, I actually grew up in New York. I'm a New York boy through and through. I grew up in the Finger Lakes. I went to high school. Yeah. Yeah. I grew up in Auburn, New York, near Syracuse. I went to school in the Adirondacks, and then I lived in Brooklyn for 16 years, but now I'm in Detroit.
So one thing that people might not know about you, Tux, and it might have played a role in your old house life, is that you are also a podcast host. You and your friend Stephanie, you record a podcast called Beyond Reproach.
Yes.
It is a history podcast. You're clever. You're funny. You are not PG rated.
No.
And but it's great. And when I looked at your bio on the Beyond Reproach website, it was really funny. You were like, I'm a 72-year-old woman in a 42-year-old man's body or something to that effect. And you were talking about how you always found history to be so dry until you were later in life. And I was going to say, I identified with that right away because all of my history classes, for whatever reason, in high school were right after lunch, which was also known as nap time.
You're sleepy, yeah.
Yeah, I slept through a lot of them, or at least, with my glazed over expression in my eyes. So I was not initially a history buff either. So let's talk about your love of history, how that developed, and then if that led to old house life.
Sure, yeah. I think the way they teach history in school a lot of times almost feels intentionally dry because they don't want to tell you the really juicy, exciting stuff because I feel like it could, I don't know. At least this is my experience through my...
Alienate the parents.
Well, alienate the parents and almost sort of radicalize people, because like when you start to learn the really crazy stories, you're like, oh, this is really like, we're doing horrible things, and we have been doing horrible things for a long time. So they don't want to talk about the bad things that this country has done.
We're all heroes, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. But yeah, so I found one part of history that I really enjoyed. When I was in college, I did like a project on the history of like food transportation and food storage, refrigerated rail cars and that kind of stuff, and how transportation technology improved and made it easier for people to get different kinds of foods in different parts of the country at different times of year. And for whatever reason, that fascinated me. So my initial history, like intro into history, was food history. But the more I researched, the more I just kind of fell in love with American history, which was like the most boring topic possible before, American history specifically. Everyone hates American history.
Yeah. I have to say yes.
Yeah. It's very like sanitized and whitewashed and just dull when they teach it. So, but we find the really juicy stories. Right now, our show is on a hiatus. Both of us are just dealing with some life stuff. Initially, we were like, we're going to take 6 months off, and it'll be a year in like a month. And we still don't have a date set for when we're coming back. But actually, Stephanie's coming this weekend for her birthday.
Oh, good.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Reunited.
Oh, just record a mini.
I
They do
know,
mini-sodes too.
Yeah, we should record a mini just to be like, hi, we're still alive.
So did your love of history eventually spill over to architecture? Is that how you ended up in these old houses? Because I know you were in an apartment in Brooklyn,
Yes,
correct?
I was in an apartment. Actually, sort of my love of architecture and old houses is actually earlier. It comes from growing up in the Finger Lakes. I grew up in a town that is filled with huge old Victorian mansions and beautiful Victorian architecture, but the town really took like an economic downturn several years ago. So a lot of these houses are in disrepair. And I grew up a little gay boy in the Finger Lakes, just looking at these houses being like, oh my God, I wish I could have this. I wish I could fix this place up for myself. And when I was a kid, my parents divorced and we moved a lot. Every time she got a better job when she was out on her own, we would move into a new apartment and we would spend all of this time and energy fixing it up and making it as comfortable as possible. And we kept doing that. So I was like, I can fix this place up. Look at this 4,000 square foot mansion. I could do that. I could
do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. And your mom, I know I've seen her on your Instagram account. She's come and helped you with the Detroit duplex as well.
Yeah, she has been, I could not have done everything that I've done in this place without her. She's amazing. She's also the star of the show. Every time she's here and I post about her in the stories, people couldn't care less about me. It's all about her.
She's lovable. She is lovable.
Yeah.
There are so many towns, I feel like, in New York that you're describing. We're beautiful, full of giant Victorians, but there was an economic downturn and they went into disrepair. I mean, you could just travel through just small town after small town from Buffalo all the way to Albany, basically, and run into a lot of that type of situation in those towns, for sure.
So you got away from all that by moving to Detroit.
Yes. The poster child of economic downturns.
What went into the decision to move to Detroit? How did you find this specific house, which is a really cool house? I encourage people to go look at it. It's a super cool house. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I had been living in Brooklyn for about 16 years before I moved here. The past few years, I used to be married. I'm recently divorced. But, while I was still living in Brooklyn, my husband and I both really wanted a place of our own. And that was never going to happen in Brooklyn. We're not millionaires. So we had been looking for a long time. We'd been thinking about the Hudson Valley. That was the plan. We were thinking like Newburgh, maybe Kingston. And then we started putting some money aside. We started going up and looking at places. We met a few realtors, and then COVID happened. And our nest egg stayed one size, but the price of real estate tripled overnight. When the lockdown happened, it felt like just half of New York City bought something in the Hudson Valley, and suddenly it was out of reach for us. So we decided to look, instead of focusing on something that was like a 2 or 3 hour drive from the city, we're like, what about maybe like a 1 or 2 hour flight that we could easily, LaGuardia is super easy to get to from Bushwick. So let's think about that, cheap flights. And we had a few cities in mind, but Detroit was top of mind. We'd heard some really cool things. The art scene here is incredible. The music scene. We've heard about all this stuff with like urban farming and eco villages and all these things. And we're like, let's go check it out. And we were here for a week. We stayed at this cute little boutique hotel downtown. There's amazing restaurants here. There's amazing art. The art museum here is like one of the best art museums, consistently voted one of the best art museums in the country. And it was absolute love at first sight. So we were here for a week. We went back to Brooklyn. I started getting on Google and looking at like Zillow. And we were back a week later to look at this house.
Wow.
Oh, really? That's quick.
Was it a prolonged search, or I take it not?
Not really. I mean, we kind of knew when we were here the first time. We rented a car and we drove around the city and looked at different neighborhoods, trying to get a feel of like where we might want to live, where we might feel like was a good fit. And so we focused on what was available in those areas. And we found this house, and it really is a cool looking house, especially from the exterior. And so we're like, we just got to go look. Housing prices are very affordable here. They're starting to creep up as the city improves, but they're still really, really affordable. So we put in an offer and it was accepted, but then closing took almost 8 months or 10 months, something like that. God. Yeah. There was a whole...
I feel for you. So stressful.
But yeah, so the spring of 2022, I officially had the deed and walked into this house and all of the disasters that came along with it.
And there are some always, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And you'll still uncover some yet.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm curious about the duplex aspect of it because it's an upstairs, downstairs duplex, right? So you have tenant upstairs and you're on the bottom, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. But I guess, did that factor into your decision? Did you want as sort of an income creating property like that?
Yeah. Before, I thought this is going to be such a smart financial decision. I'll have a little bit of passive income. You know, rents are not very high in Detroit, so it's not like I'm going to be a millionaire doing this. But it just a little bit of something coming in to help cover the cost of some of the renovations going forward, I thought was a really smart decision. But I didn't really consider, or I guess I did consider, but didn't think about how intense it was going to be, especially in the beginning, that I'm essentially renovating two houses at the exact same time. They're like, it's basically like two bungalows stacked on top of each other. So 2 kitchens, 2 boilers, 2 hot water heaters, 6 bedrooms. There's like, if I include the attic and the basement, there's like 50 windows in this house that all need restoration. So
I feel that too.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. We're all just like, yeah. Sounds right.
Yeah. So doing 2 kitchens, especially, and 2 bathrooms, trying to get it all livable all at the same time was a real challenge.
Was the house built as a duplex? I should know this. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, my whole neighborhood, I live in a neighborhood called Virginia Park. And originally it was basically all built at the exact same time in 1919 through 1921. Blocks and blocks and blocks of just these like really tightly packed brick duplexes. All of them pretty much are, one over the other. And the layouts generally are identical, upstairs and downstairs. It's basically the exact same house, just stacked on top of each other. So the whole neighborhood was all built as duplexes all at the same time.
And is this a neighborhood, like I know in a lot of Detroit, because of the volume of vacant and abandoned properties, like a lot of neighborhoods has become much less dense, I think, because they're sort of tearing down every other house or something. Is yours like that, or has it stayed more intact?
There's parts of my neighborhood. There are certain parts of the neighborhood that you walk down the street, and a street that used to have 100 homes on it might have like 4 left. And it's just these like grassy fields. My block is mostly intact. There are a few buildings that are gone, but for the most part, most of the homes on this block are still here. And I have incredible neighbors.
So when you say grassy areas, do you think high density housing is coming, or what is the plan?
I don't know if they have a plan for it just yet. I think eventually that's what will probably happen as the city continues to grow. There are certain neighborhoods closer to downtown that is already happening. There's a neighborhood called Brush Park that used to be sort of like the poster child for like urban blight. It was originally sort of like the Millionaire's Row. It was called the Paris of the Midwest. There were all these beautiful mansions, and most of them are gone now. There's a few that are left and they've been restored. But then in between, there's like these giant mansions, and then it'll be these super modern townhouse apartments.
So I remember having a conversation with you. Gosh, I don't know. How long have you had your house? 2 years now?
About 2 years, yeah.
About 2 years. So it was within the first year, I think. You and I had a direct message conversation, and we were trying to decide what style of a house yours duplex was. And I guess I was going to, since this is an audio format, not a visual, I just wanted to explain a little bit what makes your house so unique, at least in my eyes, is that when I think of a duplex, a lot of times I think of side to side.
Yes.
So you might think of left side, right side, 2 doors, 2 staircases, everything the same. It's so interesting that yours is an upstairs, downstairs. So it's basically bisected in the middle. Like if you held a mirror up to the bottom and then it reflected the top, and it has an arch, 2 arches that meet in the middle. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, it's super interesting.
Yeah, it's hard to describe. There's an arch over the front entry. There's an arch on the porch. I have a friend who's an architect, and he doesn't even know what to call it because it's like an upside down arch. He calls it a swoopy.
A swoopy. I like it. Yes.
Yeah, like a mirror image of the arch upside down above it.
I love that your architect friend called it a swoopy. That works for me.
It's actually, apparently there's not really many houses. A lot of the houses around here do kind of have a similar look, but there's not any houses around here that have the swoopy. So apparently this house is kind of well known, or at least to my friends who love old houses here. And before my architect friend and I met, he reached out to another friend of his who I'm friends with now as well and was like, oh, somebody bought the swoopy house.
That's so sweet. The swoop house.
Yeah, that's great. But it is I think I would know it in a heartbeat. If I were driving down your street, I'd be like, that's Tux's house. I know that one because it has a very distinctive look for sure.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, it's a really beautiful house. It's like a textured yellow brick on the front. And because these homes were built, this neighborhood was built as sort of like affordable housing. It was a Jewish neighborhood originally. In fact, my house, a few of the doors still have the original mezuzahs
really?
On the exterior. Yeah. I've been sort of restoring them as I go along.
Oh, that's really neat. Yeah.
You're Jewish now too, Tux.
Yeah, exactly.
Welcome.
Yeah. So the houses, because they were built as affordable houses, they put like a pretty brick on the front facade. Every house in the neighborhood has a different brick on the front. And then the back is Detroit Commons red brick.
I did not know it was two-toned.
Yeah. All of the houses, if you look on the side, they have this weird like zigzag line where the 2 bricks meet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
It's really fun.
I've seen that, but I guess I always thought it was when something was originally attached and like the attached building had been torn off. But
yeah, no,
that's really
this
cool.
was built that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
We gotta go to Detroit.
I know. It almost reminds me of like,
we've really been hyping it this season.
We were big on Detroit.
It feels like the whole world is hyping Detroit right now. This happened when I moved to Brooklyn. Brooklyn, sort of like when I was telling people I was going to move to Brooklyn, people were like, Brooklyn, oh no, so scary. And then the next thing I knew, Brooklyn is a brand. And it's like everyone loves Brooklyn all of a sudden. And now the same thing happened with Detroit. People are like, you're moving to Detroit like on purpose? And now Detroit is like, this is it. This is the place.
Yeah. It's you, Tux. It's you. You're bringing it.
I know, yes. I feel like it's any young gays who like old houses can help build up a deteriorating area, you know?
Yeah.
I have to ask, did you ever consider Buffalo?
I mean, having grown up in the Finger Lakes, I was not looking forward to lake effect snow. And
it's lovely. Hot chocolate,
yes.
Fireplaces. There's so many good things to say about lake effect snow, except for the actual removing it part. But yeah, go ahead. Tell me more.
I do love Buffalo. I think if I had moved back to upstate New York, I probably would have looked in Rochester. I never really loved Syracuse, having grown up super close to Syracuse. Of the 3 cities, it's the smallest and sort of the most run down. But Rochester always felt really cool to me as a kid. There's lots of like concert venues and stuff. And especially when I was a kid, that's where I wanted to be.
Well, I only ask you that because Detroit and Buffalo tend to be, or seem to be having sort of parallel renaissances.
Absolutely.
Can you double or can you pluralize renaissance?
Yeah.
And I guess it just made me wonder if that had been a thought, especially since you are from New York, you've been from New York your whole life.
My family was very much like, why wouldn't you just move to Syracuse? Like, because I don't want to live in Syracuse.
Yeah, don't want to move.
Yeah, not to say anything bad about Syracuse. Syracuse is also sort of going through a renaissance as well right now. And I think I have some family that just bought houses there, and it's a great little city. Well,
having lived in a lot of different places, I will say that where you live is as much a feel as it is about what is there. You know, if you have the option, some people move someplace because of work and that creates their community. But
Yeah.
in the absence of that, like I've been self-employed for a really long time, it's all about the feel. What does it feel like? And if Syracuse doesn't feel right, then it doesn't matter what you're going to find, you know, or it might be a great city for someone else, but not
Absolutely.
for you. So
Yeah.
I totally understand that.
And Detroit this was like so shocking to me, especially as a New Yorker. The first time I came here, people here are so unbelievably friendly in a way that was almost off-putting. I was like, what do you want from me? Why are you being so nice to me? As this lifelong jaded New Yorker, I don't understand what's happening.
Right. Don't engage. Don't make eye contact. What's wrong with you people? Daniel, you seem friendly. Do you make eye contact with people? And,
Not
like if you were walking,
ew.
no.
Don't be gross. No, I'm like aggressively friendly. It bothers Brad because everywhere we go, everywhere, not just Kingston, is like everyone's a friend. And it takes us a very long time to get in and out of establishments. But enough about me. I wanted to ask more about the house and like, okay, so you buy this house in a place that you've never lived.
Yes.
How did you kind of approach the renovation? What were we looking at? Like, how messed up is this house?
Sure. So that's a really good question.
Sorry. I assume everything's messed up.
Yeah. So, this is kind of the case in a lot of Detroit, but because there was such an economic downturn in the city for so long, a lot of this house was completely untouched for at least like 60 years. Nobody had really done anything in like 60 years. The guy who sold it to me, his mother they bought the house in the 60s. She was still living in the house up until they sold it. And they had been renting out upstairs. So the upstairs was the guy that lived up there. I don't want to say he was a hoarder. It wasn't quite to that extent, but it was nasty. It was really, really gross. There's some videos in my highlights, my like story highlights on Instagram of me walking through in the beginning, especially the kitchen and the bathroom upstairs were like, the first time I saw this house, well, or not the first time I saw it, but when I came with an inspector, it was the middle of the summer. The guy who was living upstairs didn't have any air conditioning. All the windows were sealed. He let us in the front door and the smell hit me really hard. And then I was up there for a while and it was so hot and the smell was so strong that I had to go outside for a while because I was like, I'm gonna throw up in this man's apartment.
Yes. And he has a lot going on already without throw up in it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There was like 3 refrigerators upstairs, I want to say. 2 of them were just unplugged and sitting in the dining room.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah. There was like grease all over everything in the kitchen. In fact, when I went to paint the trim around the windows in the kitchen, the paint just didn't want to stick and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I reached up and I was like, why is this wet up here? It was grease. Like there was like a layer of grease.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, that's a lot of work. So were you able to, when the tenant left, did he take things with him or did you find yourself in the position of cleaning it yourself?
I wrote it into the offer that when they got the tenant out, that everything had to be removed. Whether he took it or not, it was the seller's responsibility to clear the upstairs apartment out before we moved in. For whatever reason, I thought when I first saw the place, they were like, oh, there's a tenant upstairs. And I was like, okay, that's great. Then I can focus on the downstairs, collect a little bit of rent. He can stay. And then when we put the offer in, the guy was like, well, I don't want to live here under a new landlord. But also he didn't want to leave. So that was part of what held up the sale.
That's tricky. That's a really tough position for both a tenant and for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I imagine that he'd lived there for a long time if he had amassed that large of a collection of possessions. And yeah, it takes a lot of sensitivity and finesse, I guess, to work through that process. And I guess both you and Daniel have been in that situation. So interesting.
Yeah, you also have a duplex.
I do. I don't live on the first floor, but
sure.
That means I have 2 tenants to deal with.
Yeah, exactly.
Crimea River, but it is hard to, I can very much relate to I inherited the tenants when I bought the building. And so that did not mean, though, that their apartments were okay. So trying to renovate and fix things around people who are living there. And, I can't just leave a big mess and come back tomorrow. It's so it makes it really challenging. It would be much easier if that weren't the case.
It really worked out for me that the place was empty when I took over because I was able to address some structural stuff. The upstairs bathroom had all the original subway tile on the walls, the original gigantic, like 7-foot cast iron tub, original hex tile floors. But there had been so much water damage for so long that the floor had like sank. The wall tile was separate from the floor tile by like half an inch. So the tub this really hurt me to remove that tub, but the tub had to go, the floor had to come out. So I put in a new hex tile floor. I'm just trying to be sensitive to what it could have looked like before, but yeah.
Well, you're right. And when it's a structural issue like that too, you gotta uncover it and see what's happening there before you move forward.
Yeah. It's been a lot of work. Every surface is covered in lead paint, everything. All the ceilings had like textured ceilings that all had to be scraped and skim coated. And I'm not done, but the upstairs is mostly done. I'm still working on windows. And luckily I was able to rent it to a friend who doesn't really mind that I'm like, okay, I'm going to come up and take your windows apart today.
Have you done this before?
Never.
Okay. So was this I follow stuff like this on Instagram syndrome, and then you're like, I might as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, like I said before, we moved a lot and we always fixed things up, but never to this extent. Never to I'd never restored a window before. I'd never repaired old plaster before. So yeah, it was just a lot of, there's this great blog called Blake Hill House that was very helpful.
I've heard of her.
I don't know.
Yes.
I'm not that into it.
Yeah. So that's, my mom and I taught ourselves how to repair plaster that's, separating from the lath. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, Blake Hill House YouTube videos, to learn how to restore an old sash window. So,
and you did your floors yourself, right? Did I make that up?
No, the floors, we had a contractor in the very beginning to do certain things in the house, a little bit of electrical stuff, structural stuff. And while we were out of the house, I rented a little apartment nearby and had them sand and stain the floors while we were out.
Good decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Having not done it that way, and I will never do it the way I did it again. So yeah.
I did do the tile in the bathrooms. I did my own tile, which I had tiled before, but again, never to this extent.
And I'm very sorry. I may have just missed this, but obviously you have been a podcaster. You are a podcaster on hiatus.
Yes.
Is that your job, or do you have other employment?
I work from home. So my employment is still in Brooklyn. I work for a kitchenware store in Brooklyn, doing their web design, and it's sort of like web store maintenance is really my main task. But I can do that from anywhere. So that was another factor in we could move anywhere we wanted because I can make money.
Right.
But it also gives me a lot of flexibility to be like, okay, I'm gonna go scrape windows for an hour and then come back to this.
Yeah.
Do you do the hour on, hour off thing? I always try to do that. Never works.
Yeah, sometimes it's not. Yeah, it's I try, but then I'll go out and be like, okay, I'm going to scrape this one sash and then go back in, and then it's 4 sashes later. I'm like, oh, yeah, exactly.
Okay, good. We're all the same. I appreciate it.
So as a relatively new homeowner, would you do things exactly the same way again? Or if you were counseling somebody who's in your shoes or about to be in your shoes, what would you tell them?
Yeah, absolutely not. No. The biggest thing for me is budget. Whatever you think your budget is going to be, I think a lot of people say double it. I would say triple it or quadruple it. Doubling it is not enough. So underestimating what it was going to cost and how long it was going to take was the biggest problem. And the contractor that I hired in the beginning, they always say that you can have it fast, you can have it good, or you can have it cheap. Pick two. And I went for fast and cheap. And I really wish I hadn't.
Good point.
Because it was not good. And we ended up having to go back. My mom and I had to go back and fix a lot of the mistakes they made. But I kind of, they knew that I wanted to do the finishing work myself. They were just doing the, putting in electrical boxes in the bathroom for the light fixtures and that kind of stuff. And because they weren't the ones doing the finishing themselves, it was real slapdash. And so
that's generous.
Yeah.
It's often real slapdash even when they are. Or if they know another trade is doing it. Like
Totally. Yeah.
the plumber does not care about the drywaller, does not care about the plumber putting the fixtures back in. Anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I agree about the budget because old houses always fight back, don't they?
Absolutely. Yes. And there's still a lot of sort of big, expensive projects that this house still needs that I haven't gotten to yet. My front porch was originally, it's sort of elevated. There's steps up to the front porch, and it's a concrete slab over like a wooden frame. And the same with the second floor balcony is the same way. It's a concrete slab over a wooden frame. And both of them are sinking. And it really scares me.
That sounds very dangerous.
Yes. Yeah.
I know.
Were they originally built that way or did they pour concrete? Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were originally built this way. So they're 100-year-old concrete slabs over 100-year-old timbers.
Yeah. Have you been thinking about how you will approach that? If you will recreate that or whether you'll do something that looks similar but maybe functions differently?
I think I would like to try and recreate it the same way, or at least in a way that looks the same with a waterproof membrane in between the timbers and the concrete. But it's all going to depend on budget, and I'm not there yet. So I haven't even gotten estimates on what that would cost because I know I can't afford it right now. The tenant who lives upstairs, again, he's a friend of mine, so he knows that he's not allowed on the front balcony.
Call him down here. Let's see how he feels about it.
Yeah. Our software has a call-in function. We'll just let's get him on the line real quick and see what he has to say. Wow. All right. We're almost out of time. So you have this ongoing project. It's really cool. How can people follow you or find out more about you and Detroit Duplex?
It's Detroit Duplex on Instagram, all one word. And that's sort of really my only old house account. But if you want to check out my podcast as well, it's called Beyond Reproach. And I think the handle on Instagram and all the socials is Beyond Reproach Pod.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Good to know. Yeah.
It's a great podcast.
Thank you.
People should go listen. It's funny. You guys are very smart.
Thank you.
The stories are great. I was listening to it all morning and then I feel like this never actually gets to happen when you listen to podcasts and then you get to talk to the podcaster.
Yeah.
So this is the trip. It's like you went from being in my ears to in front of my face. It's fun.
I was working on a big bedroom ceiling when I started listening to Beyond Reproach. So whenever I hear Beyond Reproach, just like the two words together, all I'm thinking about is like working on that ceiling. It's like a muscle memory there right from my brain to my hand. I picture myself in that bedroom working on it. So thanks, Tux. We didn't even really get to talk about the fact that you were also an exceptional cake baker. So I will just leave that.
Bury the lead. Well,
I know.
We'll save that for our baking podcast.
Yes. There we go.
I just want to drop that in at the end because Tux, you are so incredibly talented. And thank you very much for spending time with us today.
And single now. We just found out.
I am actually seeing someone right now. Sorry.
Right.
Sorry, everyone.
Off the market.
Never mind.
Bye. All right. Thanks again, Tux.
Thanks, Tux.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been really fun.
Thank you for listening to True Tales from Old Houses, and thank you to our guest, Tux Loerzel.
Voice like velvet. And if you love this episode, as always, let us know. Drop us an email, leave us a voicemail, and please consider leaving a rating or review wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts.
To continue the conversation, join us on Facebook and Instagram at True Tales from Old Houses and individually at Blake Hill House and Daniel at Daniel Cantor.
And to learn more about everything we discussed in today's episode or request a transcript, visit truetalesfromoldhouses.com.
Until next time.
See you Monday.